Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for part 7 of our Certainty in an Uncertain World, What to Do Now weekly webinar. That's a mouthful. We are on week 7 hosting this webinar, same time, same day and place. Incredible that it's already the 7th week. And we hope for many of you that you have found a home away from home for the latest information to support you, your practice, team, and community. For those here for the first time, welcome. We're glad to have you. My name is Alexa Gil Rodriguez. I'm a practice analyst and recovery blueprint coordinator for NextLevel Practice. I'll be your moderator today and a resource to you for any questions you have during this webinar, as well as anything you need afterwards. You feel free to reach out to me via email at alexa@nextlevelpractice.com. I'll be dropping it in the chat. Any questions you have during, there's a Q&A button in the bottom. Please ask your questions and I'll try to get to you as best as I can. We have over 1,700 people registered today, which is very exciting. We continue to grow. So let's kick things off as we have great content to deliver to you today. To introduce our trusted partners and guest speaker, today we have founder and CEO of NextLevel Practice. Please welcome my colleague, Gary Kadi.
Thank you, Alexa. And I'm afraid to say Alexa because I know it triggers her in the back of your room. So I feel badly that your name is that, so I won't use that. I always say, I always make up different names for you so I don't trigger her. But I had
to change her to a computer. So she's no longer Alexa anymore.
Oh my gosh. I was going to say, how did you get away with that with Zoom? And I'm calling you Alexa all day. So first, thank you, Alexa, for being a great moderator. For those of you that are coming in right now, just chat away, just ask questions as stuff comes up. The way we created this, I can't believe it's been week 7 already, team. I have this amazing group of collaborative colleagues who are bringing all the relevant information in the areas that we need. And each week it's something different. And what we're doing is we're planning out. We now have people going back to work, believe it or not, in some states. And, we're going to learn from them. We also learn from other countries. We're tapped into what's happening in some of the successful areas like Germany and Australia, and really modeling and finding what's happening in those markets and then how to apply it. Of course, we're scouring all the science-backed, all the vetted and validated websites, as well as we have a community of people of all the provinces of Canada and all 50 states. So we've taken on being a hub for communication to have the pulse, because what's happening in Georgia is not what's happening in obviously New York. And so we're learning what's happening in Georgia and we're codifying and systematizing how to come back successfully. So we've taken on as the 9 of us, pulling in information. We have the most amazing experts, in my opinion, in dentistry. To my right here, we have Andrew Lopez of Dr. Genius. He's going to be talking about patient experience today. To my left, I have my brother from another mother, Bob Affleck, who's going to be talking about the latest in PPP. I'm tired of saying that. I shorten it to 2 things. PP. No, that's probably not good. So we'll leave it out. We're going to talk about P. How about that? All right. No, that's probably not good either. And look, my comedy is getting worse by the quarantine day, for sure. So just thanks for laughing anyway. So that's my sister from another Mr. Bob next to me. And down here, we have Brian Laskin, who is, just a genius. I've had such a privilege of just interacting with him. And he has collaborated with Dr. Genius, myself, and the group here, bringing the latest in teledentistry. If you're not practicing teledentistry, it's really a must. And it's really one of the things we learned is when the Chicago fire happened, we learned about code for buildings. They had to change the code in Chicago. When the earthquake happened in San Francisco in the Bay Area, there was new code built. When 9/11 happened, there was new code built for safety and security. Now there's new code built for how we roll in dentistry. One of the key elements is automating patient communication, and Brian has the latest on that. My man Steve is just insane. You talk about plugged in. All 125,000 doctors on the planet, Steve has direct. He's like speed dial with all these brothers and sisters. I mean, you got to love a guy like that has 125,000 people on speed dial. And Steve's really going to just give us the pulse. He's my visionary. He's the trend forecaster. I'm so grateful to have Steve on our session today. And then right in the middle, who's in the middle in the Brady Bunch? Alice. Oh, Alice in the middle, but she has cooler hair. She has the best hair in dentistry, but she also has something that everybody is talking about in dentistry, hydrogen peroxide. And she has all the latest, on the sterilization of masks, Tanya. I can't tell you, I was on a webinar in Oklahoma yesterday, and they were like obsessing with, how do I do that? How do I deal with, sterilization, swishing in the mouth? I need to know. Well, Tanya's here, and we have only 1,700 people wanting what you have today. So no pressure on you today. So excited to have you. Let's go up to Andrew. Andrew, kick us off, and let's talk about patient experience as we roll back. What's the patient experience looking like?
The patient experience, I mean, I know you're going to touch on a few things here later on in the webinar, but right now, of course, we have all this free time, right? We can't go to the beaches. We can't go out to the parks. It's beautiful outside. So what do? It's really about looking at our patient experience. There's a lot of time to start optimizing this, right? From the staff interactions, what does that look like for your practice? Can it be optimized? Have you looked at your reviews to see what your patients are really saying about those interactions, and start getting to those and nipping them in the bud one by one, right? How are you answering the telephone call? Can that be optimized? And obviously it's going to be a little bit different as we come back, coming out of this pandemic. We're going to be asking questions in regards to the coronavirus and screening these individuals. So how can we make that call soft and warm and fuzzy and not so scary and fearful, right? And the same thing goes with the website, the content that you're putting out there about, the screening and, what to expect when they come into the office. I mean, of course, you're going to be, everyone's going to be gowned up in, in the appropriate PPE and have their masks and, shields on and everything. But how can we come out and make that approach a more softer approach? And so it's not, you got to imagine for a child coming into the dentist now, that's going to be scary, right? So how can we, address that and address it on the website to let the parents know and let these families know that, hey, we are thinking about these things. Billing, it's going to be huge. A large part of the population is, unfortunately unemployed. They've lost their dental insurance. And, as well as I do, dental insurance only covers so much. It's not like health insurance, unfortunately. So having those strategies and solutions in regards to payment plans, care credit, maybe, offering solutions and letting them know that you're there and having that information on the website so they know that you're thinking about this, meeting with the doctor. I think that's going to be crucial, even with your existing patient base. It's almost like you're bringing on a new patient, right? Because things have changed so much. Doctor needs to talk to the patient and let them know, hey, we are here, and just like what I just discussed on the billing and the telephone calls and all that, we're here, we're thinking of all of this, and we want to help. And if any suggestions that you can get from your patients right now, take them and run, because that's going to help you evolve. And that's what this whole time, is hopefully we're going to come out evolved and stronger, right? Wait times. Because of all these hurdles that we have, we know these wait times are going to be, through the roof, and we don't have really a waiting room now. We have to, keep them out inside their cars and call them in one by one. So what does that look like? In some cities, it's going to be hot, sitting in a car waiting. So how can you optimize that to where there is no wait time, or you cut that down, right? Talking about the online reviews again, you know, getting in front of those, scheduling appointments. That's going to be huge because you're going to have to set those windows, and you're really going to have to know how long your procedures take, because any little gap is going to cost you quite a bit because there is no room, right? You're probably not going to be able to see as many patients because of all these hurdles that you're going to have to go through. Letting social media, or letting your community and your patients know via social media that this is what we have in place. Here are the steps. Letting them know, you know, a bullet point, hey, this is what to expect. Please allow us some time as we evolve with, you know, growing our business, or actually starting the business. You know, it's almost like starting all over again. Appointment follow-ups. This was one thing. We had an appointment for my 9-year-old, and it's scheduled for next week. And unfortunately, you know, I don't believe he's going to be opening up, and we haven't received a follow-up call. So what is that? Make sure you're going through all your appointment books. And my wife followed up with them, and, you know, and got ahead of it. And yeah, it came out that we had to reschedule, but you really need to get in ahead of those, because that's, you know, that's going to be your bread and butter in the future. Everything you have to, you know, optimize and strategize for, even the office and the bathroom. Having set schedules and reminders, you know, for your staff to go in and clean that bathroom, whether it's after each use or every 20, 30 minutes, but having those protocols set in place. And then your pharmacy, I mean, those are things, you know, you want to have those relationships and let them know how they can go and pick up their prescriptions and be safe, right? So it's all about the patient experience. And, you know, I've been reading a little bit from Tony Robbins' Unshakable, and there's a few quotes I'd like to share from there. In his 2015 annual report, Warren Buffett addressed this subject at length, explaining how population growth and extraordinary gains in productivity will create an enormous increase in wealth for the next generations of Americans. This all-powerful trend is certain to continue. America's economic magic remains alive and well. This is true today, guys. He wrote, for 240 years, it's been a terrible mistake to bet against America. And now is no time to start. We're going to come out of this. We're going to come out stronger. And just don't be fearful. And another, you know, something out of here from Tony Robbins. How can you achieve anything if you're too scared to take a risk? So all these things, these hurdles and all this optimization you have to do about the, you know, I understand that's a risk. It's going to probably cost some money, and some of the equipment that you're going to have to buy for the office, it's going to be an investment. And I understand that, but it's like, you have to take those risks to come out of this stronger. So creative planning, definitely, you know, that's what surrounds the patient experience. Get creative with it, meet with your team, and, you know, optimize that patient experience. Back to you, Gary. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate that. I totally agree. We're going to talk more about patient experience. And I put up when Andrew was speaking, just to support, these are the 5 areas to really look inside, the 5 buckets that we have our attention on. And these also become not only external customer experience, internal, you know, team member experience, PPE, air quality, physical flow, no touch front office. Brian's going to be talking about, and we should probably jump into Brian right now, really how to get ahead of the calls. Imagine getting, telling the patients, and I like what Andrew said. He said, let's treat every patient as a new patient. 100% agree with that, because they're not the same patient, you're not the same office, and if you show up that way, the patient's going to go, you were not conscious, and I'm not going to have you as my dental team. And by the way, we're seeing this with dental team members too. Some team members, you know, are going just, whatever, this is fine, we're good. But some team members are really afraid, but they're afraid to say it. So one of the things that we are suggesting is saying, these are the 5 things that we're taking on as a practice that are going to support your safety and the safety of our patients. And one of the things, and I want to move down to number 4, and then we'll get to number 5, which is Tanya today. Now we have a framework to go, this is your marketing. I'm going to show a video a little later of how to market to your existing team member, your patients, so that you overcome the barriers for them to come in. One of the key things is having a structure for teledentistry. And Brian is our resident teledentistry expert, and really getting ahead of calling 3 days ahead, saying we have no touch, no transaction dentistry, getting things paid for before they come in. Patients are going to love it, but if you don't have a structure, it's going to be difficult to deliver. And I'd like Brian to come in and talk about teledentistry and the latest things that we need to be aware of.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gary. And thanks, Andrew, because you're exactly right. It's all about patient experience and extending that into the new experience that people are going to get at your office today. You know, prior to COVID-19, paperless forms, teledentistry was a convenience that it no longer really is a convenience. It's really mandatory. And one big example of that is the new, well, the pre-screening forms that have come out. That's not mandated, but it's recommended by the CDC. We were right away launched when the CDC came out with the pre-screening forms, and you may have seen on Friday they redid them. I'll share my screen so we have a. This is what the current pre-screening form is, the patient disclosures that the CDC guidelines came up with. And you can see that, you know, patients can just sign directly from their phone. Everything's mobile friendly. It scales down. So if they do it from their phone, and then it's very easy for you to send this to the patient before they come into the practice. And like Gary said, it's all about not just paperless, but touchless, because you want to get this information before the patient comes to your office. If they come in, they touch everything, and you hand them a clipboard with a piece of paper, it's a horrible experience. You know, if you look online, I've seen stories of people freaking out at Target because they have to take a pen to sign something. I went to grab a hamburger, and there was 2 different cups, one where you grab a pen, one where you put it in the other, so so that they can sterilize the pens. And so when they come to our office and we look like we're astronauts in hazmat suits, we need to make sure that we're reassuring them that we're doing what we can and to remove that cross-contamination. There's been a slow, steady trend to be paperless for teledentistry, to be able to remotely get information from patients, so we can more accurately treat them when they come to our practice. But that slow, steady trend has been sort of a cliff that now we kind of have to jump into. It's more than patient demand. It's really I believe it's going to be becoming the standard of care very, very soon. So thanks, Gary.
Yeah, you bet, Brian. And you know, one of the things to be aware of that Brian said, do not look at how you relate to it through your eyes and your values. I want to give you a distinction. Speak to the 10. So when I say speak to the 10, what I mean is, if it's 0 to 10, 0, you're not afraid, 10, afraid, speak to the internal 10, which is your team. Because I've observed team meetings, a lot of them lately, and doctors go, you're not afraid, you're not afraid, you're not afraid. And then the team member is afraid to express their fear. And a lot of people who are younger, they go, oh, they're young, they don't care. Well, watch this. I spoke to a young gal today. She goes, I have a lung issue, and I have a precondition of a lung issue, and I'm concerned about that. And you really have to create it as don't make the assumptions. Speak to the 10, first to your team. Team, what concerns do you have? Does anybody, and I always say this, from a scale of 0, you're not afraid at all. You're just going to go in, and you can go in naked, and you're fine, and touch everything, right? Well, that wasn't probably good. I'll take that back. Please retract that. I'm on fire today, and you can tell I've been going since 7 this morning. So I take that back. You're afraid. You're not afraid. You're just touching everything. You're good. 2, you got the receptacle for the pen and not pen, or, you know, like, look through the eyes of a 10, because a lot of people are worried about their revenue. If you're worried about your revenue, I'm going to show you a video either before or after Tanya goes, of how to speak to the 10 and remove the barriers for entry from somebody to come back. That's what I'm recommending. And there's so many details that you can do. And we do this in the recovery blueprint. So, we can talk about this deeper, but I just wanted to give you one concept that everybody gets. Speak to the 10, let your team tell you if they're afraid or not, and then honor that, and then build the system like Brian's talking about. I like saying, let's create as much no-touch dentistry as we can. The better we do that, the better we're going to remove the barrier to entry. I want to go, Steve, I'm going to come to you next because I always go to looks later. I'm going to go to Bob first. That joke is still alive, Steve. So you'll be next. I'm going to go to youth and beauty first. Bob Affleck is going to talk about PPP and what to do now.
Okay, so first of all, Gary, I don't know how to take what you just said. So
I'm horrible. So just be compassionate for a guy that's trying to be funny, like my wife says, and I'm not. So let's just stop there, and I retract it all so far. Go ahead, Bob.
got it. Okay, all right. So I don't know what just happened to my presentation there, but
It looks good, Bob. Just go in the lower right, and it'll,
there we go. Okay. All right. So first of all, always great to be on this, and I really enjoy because I learn so much every time I'm on as well. But first of all, you're absolutely right, Gary. The PPP program, without a doubt, is getting old. We've been dealing with this for a couple of weeks now, and obviously thousands and thousands of people have been applying for the PPP. Obviously, the first round of the PPP went out very quickly. And now that we have the second round of funds, thousands are waiting to see if they're going to be able to get funded on the funds that they have now. So, for all of you out there that did apply for the PPP loan with these banks, I can tell you all the banks are working extremely hard around the clock to get all of these requests met. But I can also tell you that what's going to happen and what is happening is that everybody's fighting for this money. And so we're all going in and trying to get what is called an E-Tran number from the SBA. And then once we receive that, then we know that our funds are guaranteed. But the reality of it is not everybody is going to get that, unfortunately. So everybody continue to keep your fingers crossed. Fortunately, we're at the tail end of all of this, which is great. But how do you know if you've got it? Primarily what's going to happen is your bank or financial institution will send out to you a document, which will be your loan document that will show you the terms and conditions of the loan. So that would be the time that you know for sure that you got it. So, and then once you've signed that, then days later, you'll probably receive your funds in your account. I just wanted to share this today. Primarily I know a lot of you have probably seen this on the internet, but I just want you to know this is how I feel after this PPP program is concerned. So that was just a picture taken of me. I kind of felt that was me. So now, obviously now is the time to really focus your attention on your business. And I know that a lot of you obviously have been doing that. I truly would really look at where you're at financially as far as your debt is concerned. Primarily, this would be the time, as much as a lot of people do not like debt, really now is the time to focus and start freeing up your cash flow by refinancing and consolidating your current practice debt. So you can also receive cash out as well to cover other types of expenses that you're not able to cover. Also, the recovery blueprint program with you, Gary. This program has been wildly successful, and I just can't even express. If you haven't joined the recovery blueprint program, you all need to join this. This is just an amazing program, and it really will put you on track and get you on track to really walk into your practice the right way. Obviously, it's all about freshening up your website and marketing. And that's something obviously Andrew was talking about, but I think it's all about the message that you're getting out there, and what message are you going to deliver to your patients and also to, to the community that you serve. So it's going to be really important to actually probably go in and change what's on the front page of your website to really share the message that you really want to get out there to make them feel safe. Obviously, today we're talking about implementing healthy solutions as well. I just really wanted to quickly show you, there is a new financing program out there for dentists. This particular program will allow you to refinance, consolidate and cash out of your practice. It's a 10-year fixed rate. Maximum loan amount is up to 100% of your collections, which is pretty amazing. This allows up to 6 months of interest only or no payments. So you can choose either or. Yes?
Question, 100% of collections, is that monthly or annually, Bob?
Annually. That would be annually, right. So they'll go up to 100% of your annual collection, correct. So this is actually a phenomenal program that I found out there in the marketplace. So if you would like to know more about it, definitely you're welcome to contact me. I'll be more than happy to share who that is. Obviously, upon your return, complete recovery blueprint, strengthen your financial situation, have healthy systems around, already in place when you enter back into your practice. This is my information. So if you'd like to know more about that program, just let me know. All of you have a great day today, and I'll turn it back over to you, Gary.
Thanks, Bob. I really appreciate, having you as an expert, because not only are you just looking at the PPP, you're looking at all the other options to dentists, because some dentists are not getting the PPP. So thank you very much for that. Also, very quickly, a lot of docs, in the recovery blueprint ask me, I need to maximize this forgiveness. A very simple concept, if I suggest here, I just want to do a blanket. And it's not for everybody. That's why you want to really get in and customize. I don't want to make this an absolute blanket, but use the PPP, if you did get it, as your cash flow. More, instead of worrying about maximizing the forgiveness, it is free money. It's 1%. You have 2 years to pay for it. If you use it, cash is king. If you use it in the short term, then you can start paying 6 months and then pay for it in 18. That will, instead of trying to get every nickel out of, forgiveness, look and maximizing it, look at it as a cash flow vehicle to have your business run solvently, so you can take your time and not be in a poverty mentality, because you'll make short-term decisions that will hurt your long-term growth. Thank you for that. Andrew, and then we'll go to Steve.
Yeah, I would say one thing to add to that too, because I've heard this from a couple clients, is reach out to your team members and see because if you've laid some people off, see who's willing to come back. Unfortunately, some individuals are not going to come back. They may, situations have changed, in life. So I really, suggest, reaching out to every team member right now and seeing where they're at in life. I just wanted to add that in because
yeah, it's great. And there's also short term for the 8 weeks. I have some people that have told me that their CPA, you didn't hear this from me, I'm passing this information along, that there's short-term hires for 8 weeks, and that there's an agreement to do that if you need to renovate your place, if you need a new, there's all kinds of people that are agreeing to that, and that, according to their CPA, is a legal forgiveness piece. So that's a pass along. I'm not a CPA, but I think that that's information shared for you. Okay. Steve Parker, you're in the house.
Gary.
What good man.
Hey, gang. I do have a few things to share. I'm gonna go old school. I don't, the screen share is a challenge for me. So I wanted to tell you about two, we'll call it two troubling trends, and then kind of get on to what's going on in dentistry. A lot of I do this a series called Coming Back Stronger. We have about 52 interviews now with key opinion leaders in dentistry. Very informal. Gary Kadi is one. We do talk about his recovery blueprint. I would encourage you to watch that, because it's just a great program. So here are two troubling things, Gary, that I want to make sure we cover today.
Please.
On the Profitable Dentist magazine website, there's a post that you may not know this, but in France, they're protesting the lack of PPE. Did you guys know this?
Yeah.
So they've undertaken this effort. The dentists in France are doing so I don't know if you can see this.
There you go, Steve. You're at it closer, a little closer.
Yeah, they're posing naked in their practice, like behind their chairs or whatever. And they've got this whole movement going. So number one, I'm working really hard in dentistry to stop that movement before it gets to the United States. Because I love my dentist friends, but there's a lot of them. I don't even want to see them like 90% naked behind a chair. The other thing is even more troubling. I heard this. It's a rumor. Somebody sent me this picture. It's Gary Kadi in a cowboy hat. I don't know if it's real or not. It could be Photoshop, but I'm on top of it. So in all seriousness, what I'm seeing is in Monday in Indiana, they came back. I think there were 7 states that you could start seeing patients on Monday. What does that mean? I think a lot of docs are figuring it out as they go. They're trying to figure out the PPP strategy, because now there is a day they're seeing patients, they're bringing staff back. Do they bring them all back? Do they bring part of them back? Do they ramp them up? You've got staff. I think you're right, Andrew. There's a lot of staff that are making more money at home right now on unemployment through August than they'll make coming back. You have PPE, which we're going to talk about here in a second. What should they follow? The CDC guidance, the ADA guidance, the Minnesota Dental Association guidance. So there are a lot of those challenges. That's kind of the chatter right now. And so what I'm saying are, that dentist mindset is to have all the answers before we pull the trigger. And right now you don't have that. So I think what I would say is move along cautiously, do what you think is right. I don't think you can go wrong following the guidance of the CDC and the ADA that they have right now. I'm sure it'll change, which we're going to talk about here shortly. But we're seeing a lot of practices start back up. Some of them are dabbling and some of them are full steam ahead. So, which one's right? We won't know until it's over. But at least I think people are seeing the end of it. So there's a lot of movement forward right now this week.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for bringing humor into the space. Andrew, you want to jump in on something?
Yeah, just that I didn't want to say, mention these employees or ex-employees, what Steve mentioned, that's true. Mm-hmm. That's what's happening. They're saying, hey, I'm more comfortable, collecting unemployment. A question I would have though, is if you're offering them their job back, right, through this,
right,
PPP program, and they deny it, are they quitting? And are they still,
so
what happens?
Talk to your HR person. Technically, they're supposed to come back. Now, you as the doc, you've still got to file a complaint. You have to do all this kind of stuff, and you got a lot on your mind. So in practical terms, I don't know how much of that shakes out. There's also the issue of, and I forgot to mention this, there's also the issue of, kids are at home. Nobody's in school. So if, you take, and I know Alexa has kids at home because we've been on a call and you can hear them. Awesome. But if Alexa if she was a hygienist and the doc said, hey, we're opening, come in, what are you going to do? So that's a real challenge for practice owners who might have a young team with kids trying to figure out how to juggle all that. So the only advice I can give is just make sure you communicate with your team. I've probably done 4 interviews this week and it's only Tuesday on this exact topic. How do you start to parse it out and bring people back with all these complications?
And, I want to just dive in here, Steve. So what we're doing is, and if I could just reiterate from last week, come back at 50% capacity. The first thing you want to do is you got to reduce your flow, and we'll get into this, deeper if you want to. You can get with Alexa, but month 1, 50% capacity, month 2, 75. Some are staying at 75 of last year's numbers, so that you have to reverse engineer the dollars and the expenses to have a profitable business. We believe that the dentist should pay themselves first, because if your money's not right, you can't join the fight, and you can't come back at the same capacities. Now, we have some aggressive practices that are doing double time, because you have to space patients, you have to get your feet under you, you have to get the cadence of switching PPE. There's all kinds of stuff. So we recommend coming at half capacity or doubling hours. We don't recommend actually doubling hours. Some people are, just because they want full revenue back. So there's different strategies. I want to give you a general one: 50% coming back at capacity. Now, that being said, we are suggesting that you interview each team member to individually on Zoom to see what their level of safety is. Do they want to come back? Do they have kids? You have to treat them individually and re-interview them to come back into the new practice. What we're finding is it's actually balancing itself out. Some people want to stay home because they have the kids and they want some time off. And so you don't have to bring your entire team back. So it allows you, and here's the other thing: do not bring team members that are unwilling back or defiant back. Don't do that. We do not recommend that, because you're going to have more systems and you're going to need more willingness than you ever have. And if you had people who left and you need to reestablish a relationship with them, do that in that interview. So I don't want to take up more of Tanya's time. I want Tanya to I want you to really get what Tanya has to say here, because Steve, thank you. And thank you to all of my colleagues. We all learn from each other, in real time as we fly this plane, we're building it. But I really want you to make sure that you get Tanya. Tanya and I are going to have the hygiene paradigm shift coming up on Friday, 3 hours of what to do in your hygiene department. It's going to be amazing. And right now, this is a very relevant topic: hydrogen peroxide and the dental practice. And we have the #1 expert in the US. She'll humbly say, "Gary, don't say that." But she is brilliant. I've known her for many, many years. Tanya, thank you for bringing your wisdom to our community today.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, guys. Everything you're talking about is just so important, and it shows by how many people are here. I work at PerioProtect. We do focus a lot on hydrogen peroxide. My specialty is not as much in-depth science as it is communicating that. And I'm going to let you down a little bit. I have nothing on vaporizers here for you today. I could find that information out for you, but I do not know how to create a vaporizer for hydrogen peroxide that's going to be safe. But I do have really good information for you that everybody needs right now. So people come to PerioProtect. We're a tray delivery system to push medications really gently deep below the gum so the medications can fight the infections. This has always been important. It's always been important to have healthy gums. And if you are a complete health practice, you get it. You understand the role of gingival infection and inflammation on the rest of the body. We used to talk a lot about heart disease, about type 2 diabetes, about dementia. What we also need to incorporate right now is a clear system about how important it is to have healthy gums for your immune system, because there has never been a more important time when you need a healthy, robust immune system to fight off infectious challenges, including viral attacks. It is so important. And so what we're able to do with this tray therapy is address two things: inflammation that patients have in general, right? Like half of Americans have chronic periodontitis, millions more have gingivitis. Those are chronic infections. So we have a way to treat that does not produce aerosols. And the product, the antimicrobial that is most commonly used in this tray, is a 1.7% hydrogen peroxide gel that also is a known antimicrobial for SARS-CoV-2, which I'm just going to call SARS-2. The ADA is recommending that you have your patients rinse with 1.5% hydrogen peroxide or a 0.2% povidone before treatment. Now, let's talk a little bit about what we don't know, because Steve, you alluded to this earlier. Things change, right? Like, just so quickly. Originally, ADA came out and said you need a 1.0% rinse. Then they upped it to 1.5. Now I'm hearing 2 30-minute rinses using 30-second rinses of 1.5 hydrogen peroxide. We don't actually No, there have been no clinical trials here. We just know that it does kill the virus. And the problem with the liquid is it has a burst effect. So when you have if you have a cut on your hand, you pour hydrogen peroxide on it, it like foams up, right? That's a burst effect. Hydrogen peroxide does two things. It oxidizes and it oxygenates. For its oxidizing properties, that's really key here for this virus. And ADA is taking their recommendations based on this study. If you want to look it up, it's here. And for all of you who are watching now, after this broadcast, I will send you via email a list of all of the sources, and some of the videos that are here, our white paper and our template for your patients. So you can use any of those as you like, but they're coming to an inbox near you soon, whatever email you use to register for this. So because of its oxidizing effects, we know that hydrogen peroxide is likely going to be able to kill this virus. It does effectively kill the SARS virus from 2002, 2003. But a rinse has a burst effect. For a longer time period, a longer contact time, you might consider brushing with a gel. And you want to get this as comprehensive coverage as you can. So not just your teeth, your gums, your tongue, the palate, as much of your mouth as you can. And you want to keep this, it's going to mix with some of your saliva. You want to keep it in your mouth as long as you can, and then spit, and don't rinse. Even if you're using a hydrogen peroxide rinse, don't rinse with water afterwards. Now, this is the gel that I'm going to be talking about today when I show you before and after pictures and when I talk about the research. There are lots of peroxide products on the market, 1.5. You could take a 3% and dilute it half and half. It just isn't going to taste very good. So that's why the commercial rinses are really nice. EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, does not make drug claims, but they do make disinfectant claims, and they have listed, and if you just put in EPA list N, it's going to pop up in your Google search. They list all of the known products with claims against the virus that we're talking about right now that leads, so SARS-CoV-2 leads to COVID-19, the disease. Peroxide is recognized in a 0.5% concentration to be really effective against this virus, but you have to have 5 minutes of contact time. That's a lot longer than a burst effect would be. And it is important to really think about the mouth. Now, this is an animal study, and it's from the original SARS virus, but what they saw in this study, what the researchers saw, was that the virus attacked and first took its targeted route in your salivary glands. This is why dentists are on the front line, because there's just the risk of this transfer is potentially through saliva and also through aerosols and anything you might exhale. So let's talk a little bit about this. If you are interested in learning all the detailed science, we have a white paper that was put out by Milton Marshall. I don't know anyone who knows more about hydrogen peroxide than Milton Marshall. He's the person I go to when I have questions. He drafted this paper, and it talks a lot about this particular virus and what we're facing now, what we know, what we don't know, and the safety of it. I didn't think we were going to have to go there. I wasn't worried too much about people swallowing disinfectants, but we put in a bunch of safety information now, so that's there for you too. And then his recommendation, and his recommendation is not only follow ADA to rinse, but that you would have, if you have a tray application of the gel, you'd have an extended release time, a longer contact time. So we've talked about rinsing, we've talked about brushing, there are also tray applications. Now, in a perio tray, which is what I know most about, we always say the medication won't leak out. This is the benefit of it. It holds it in place and delivers it deep. But if you put too much in there, it'll definitely leak out because there's only so much it can hold, and a little goes a long way. So our recommendation for those of you who are already PerioProtect providers and you have your patients come in, put some gel, fill that tray fuller than you normally would, wear it, it's going to immediately leak out, and then it will slowly continue to leak. This is a way to give you a longer contact time, should you choose that. Now, the tray is also a perfect complement to what you're doing. Not only are you reducing the risk of viral transmission through saliva, because the hydrogen peroxide is going to kill the virus in the saliva, you also have a way to address delayed patient care. So your waiting rooms have looked a lot like this. And even when we open doors again, as some of you already are, you're not going to have a full waiting room likely, You have a lot of patients who are delaying care. If you are trying to reduce the risks of aerosols, your perio maintenance and your perio therapies take on a whole new perspective. So of course there's lasers. There are also ozone options for folks, but PerioProtect is a great option for you. It's completely non-invasive. You're not using aerosols. This is a way to treat patients right away and help them get better control over the infections and the inflammation, and you don't have to put yourself at risk. I know a lot of docs now who are going back, their teams are going straight back into perio, but with hand scaling and trays or with lasers. So it's a way to do this. And there will be some people whom, if they really understand, and you might be explaining to them, now is the time to really take this chronic inflammation seriously, because you need the strongest immune response possible. And we can help you do that by suppressing, by decreasing, by treating the infection and the inflammation in your mouth. They cannot do this at home. The toothbrush, rinse, or floss, it doesn't get deep enough. And we have all these tools to help you explain it to patients. The tray delivers the medication deep. The medication fights the infection. It is almost always, this is not the only drug delivered, but 95, 96% of the time, hydrogen peroxide gel is the primary antimicrobial. Again, it's a 1.7% solution. This is our suggested pretreatment protocol for you, and we will send this out. Again, rinsing with a 1.5%, go for at least 30 seconds if you can. If you want to do 2 30 seconds, that's not a bad idea either. Brush if you want to choose this option. It just gives you a longer contact time. This gel that I know well, perio gel, is gooey. It's thick, it sticks. You would just use quite a bit of it on your toothbrush. Wait as long as you can before you spit. Don't rinse with water. When you're at home, you can do this. If you're going to use trays in the office, if they have them, tell them to bring them in. Give them a lot of peroxide gel in that tray. You want them to wear it at least 10 minutes. Longer is fine, but at least 10. And again, they can, at this point, they can spit. They don't have to rinse with water. You're going to do everything you normally do with your extra precautions and PPE. And then for anybody with delayed care, they have concerns, you have concerns. Now is the time to start talking to them about PerioProtect. This is when we teach people the protocols for perio tray therapy, there's 2. One in maintenance, and then one even before debridement and scaling. That really innovative program developed by Dwayne Keller to use trays before scaling, before debridement. This is its time. This is the time to really take it seriously. I just want to show you what tray therapy can do on its own. This is just trays. 2 weeks of tray therapy. In this case, the patient used them 4 times a day. This is a patient with Parkinson's disease. You've got some elderly folks and you're trying to make sure that you can do everything they can to decrease their risks. This is a great way to do it. This is a month of tray therapy for a 34-year-old who had a heart attack and who has out of control diabetes. Same patient, a month of trays. This is what you can do for patients up front. Same patient, 1 month of tray therapy. This is a patient that did debridement and trays first before scaling. So the top is pre-treatment, the bottom is after. And clearly, when you go back and you do the scaling, it's going to get better. But I just want to encourage you that there's so much you can do now. You do not have to give up your hygiene department right now. There are ways to get people back to work to get patients healthier. This is debridement and trays. On the right, it's before scaling. This is a month of tray therapy with debridement at week 3. And this is just adding trays to maintenance. So think about this. Your patients, your maintenance patients, they haven't been in for weeks or months. They're not going to be able to. You're going to continue to delay the care because you have to. This is a way to address the inflammation and the infection. This is the same patient. She used the trays 3 times a day for 2 weeks from June 23rd to July 7th. Now, I want to go over some of the research because case studies are nice. They give you an idea of what it can do. But let's look at some of this research. So this is a study on 66 refractory maintenance patients. They've exhausted their treatment options at the periodontist. He puts them all on trays twice a day for 10 minutes. That reduction that you see, this is bleeding on probing. So you probe to the base of the pocket, does it bleed or does it not bleed? That's a 75% reduction in bleeding for your refractory patients. You've tried everything else. And then you see how it flatlines? It flatlines at 6 months out to 5 years. This is where PerioProtect shines. Long-term inflammation management. You don't always get to zero bleeding, but we want you to get as low as possible, and we recommend trays for anybody that's bleeding at 10 sites or more. Tray therapy in 2 6-month controlled clinical trials in this long study that extended out for 5 years works equally well for smokers and non-smokers. And this is a controlled clinical trial. Patients weren't randomized for bleeding. They were randomized for pocket probing depth scores. The blue group is using trays with just hydrogen peroxide. The red group isn't. That dotted line at week 3 is where everybody gets scaling. Do you see that drop from 23 down to 9 in 2 weeks, just 2 weeks? That's just tray therapy even before scaling. You have a way to treat patients now that is going to benefit the patient significantly. These are shallow pockets, so we're talking about 5 millimeters or less. If you look at the deeper pockets, it's even more dramatic. So whether it's shallow or deep, the tray will deliver medication into pockets as deep as 9 millimeters. That said, you can't always avoid surgery, but our goal is to treat this, and the most conservative way you can treat this is follow those chronic wound care guidelines from the American Medical Association. And if you're interested in that kind of an approach and you really want it laid out, Dwayne Keller is the person for you. And we've got trainings coming up. Gary and I will be reviewing this also this Friday. This Friday, May 1st. If you're on the East Coast, it's from 12 to 3. If you're on the West Coast, it's from 9 to 12. Lots of information. I'm going to go into much more depth about how you can use them and the protocols and who can benefit. We have, for those of you who use the PerioProtect lab in St. Louis, I'm sorry, Canadians, I can't help you here, but for those of you who use the PerioProtect lab in St. Louis, we're offering special COVID recovery pricing for you. We're dropping tray prices by $20 each. We're going to do that through the end of July. We're here with you all. Your work is so important. We understand the pressure you're facing. We're facing it too. And we really are with you. We have a lot of support that you can use now. This is a letter that I drew up as a template with my colleague, Alan Friedel. You can use this and we're happy to share it. You can change it for whatever you want. I'll be updating it soon because the first paragraph is all about we're only open for emergency care, but the rest of it is still appropriate and relevant. And I will keep this as a link. You'll be able to find it in the e-blast I send out. We also have videos, short videos. When I say short, the really scientific one is 17 minutes. It's done by Dwayne Keller. He's our chief scientific officer. It talks a lot about the virus and how the body responds. And then why hydrogen peroxide is effective. He really gets into the science nitty gritty of it. And then there's 2 others. They're both by me, and they're more designed for teams and patients to understand why inflammation is so important. I did it in 10 minutes. I had a doctor from Chicago call me and say, I don't think my patients are going to want all that stuff on the end. So I shortened it to 5. So I'll make all that available for you. I want to make sure we have some questions, and I want you to be able to play that video, Gary, from Dr. Ueno, because that thing is really, really beautifully done. This is my contact information. Alexa, I don't know if you've got questions for me, or people can always email me afterwards.
I do have some questions. Gary, because we have about 7 minutes left. I'm trying to direct them all to you, Tanya. Do you want to answer a few, Gary, or would you rather just show? I think the video is going to take a few minutes, right?
Yeah, I need 3. So let's take another 3 for Tanya. Let Tanya answer any questions or anybody else in the panel that we need to address, please.
Hey, Tanya, can trays be done at home? Or does it have to be done in the practice?
They have to be done in the practice. Yeah, you get an impression. So if you have a scanner, it's super easy. You just walk in, you scan, you take 5 minutes, send everything off. Typically, we tell everybody that we need very detailed probing charts. Those detailed probing charts are for customized trays that are going to last for years. If you do not want to get a fresh probing chart or you don't have it, we can make a uniform seal for you. It'll work beautifully, especially for this purpose. It just may not last 5 years. That's the difference.
Tanya, is there an age limit?
So we don't typically recommend this for children because they lose their teeth and then they grow new ones, or they don't, maybe you don't say grow, you have new ones emerge, but it's hard when kids lose, you know, so I would say teenagers who have their permanent teeth and above.
Okay, last one. So what is your recommendation or opinion for rinsing with Paradex before perio or prophies versus peroxide?
So I would use peroxide personally. I would do a peroxide rinse.
Okay. The rest, Tanya, I will give them all your contact information. Okay, Gary, so you can look for that video.
Yeah, it's great. So I want to share a video with you. This is a community member that has taken the strategies that we use in the recovery blueprint that you've heard about. It's 3 sessions with me, and we customize how to repackage your practice. And I wanted to show this to you because this is like the end result. I want you to pay attention to, don't use this like, oh, like if we don't do this, we can't reopen. I think it's beautifully done. It's comprehensive. And you're going to notice some things in there. He's going to talk about his stand for the people of the Bay Area. So it's not just dentistry, it's his stand for health, wellness, and safety. The context is wider now. So I want you to pay close attention to that. You're also going to see what we call an oral systemic connection chart, where we talk about the mouth-body connection. So patient education materials, take notice of that. And then just how he beautifully removes the fears and allays them and sends a message out that we've got you, and does it in a way that just articulates those 5 buckets that we talked about. So here we go. Thank you to Dr. Jeremy Ueno, leader in the complete health model. And I'm going to share that with you right now. Let's do that. And then my sincere gratitude to everybody. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for sharing your requests and needs. To my panelists, we're going to send you off with this special video. Please enjoy. You see my screen, Alex? We go.
The U.S. now has more reported cases of the coronavirus than any other country in the world.
The number of cases in the U.S. jumped again overnight to at least 102,000, with 1,600 deaths.
This is a time of great uncertainty for everyone, but one thing is certain: our health and safety must always be a priority. At the Ueno Center, we are a stand for the people of the Bay Area. We have always adhered to the highest standard of care and safety with our sterilization protocols and PPE. But now with COVID-19, we are working even harder to elevate our knowledge and achieve even greater standards of care. We have created a comprehensive checklist of recommendations and guidelines that will be implemented at each and every stage of the patient visit.
Hi, my name is Lori.
We will limit how germs can enter the office, starting from the time you call with telephone screening to recognize potential carriers. We will also offer virtual consults and virtual post-op visits to limit the amount of times you need to physically be in our office. When you arrive, we have reorganized our reception area to respect social distancing. We will take your temperature to make sure you're not running a fever. In fact, all Ueno Center team members will be screened every single day. We have placed air filters and molecule air purifiers throughout the office. All high traffic areas, including door handles and the reception desk, will be sanitized after patient encounters and every hour by a Ueno Center team member. When you are in treatment, elevated protocols of infection control will be carried out throughout the duration of your visit to ensure your safety. This includes the installation of negative air pressure units to remove the aerosol in the air that dental procedures produce. These units, along with the air purification units in the operatories, allow for cleaner air to circulate the rooms. Our level of sanitation is truly hospital grade, as after you leave, we will use a UVC light to disinfect the operatory after every surgery. With the immense amount of resources we have invested into the new technologies and protocols in our office, along with the amount of time we have spent training our team, we know that the Ueno Center will continue to be a hub for safety, health, and wellness for years to come. We look forward to seeing you at your next visit.
Thank you, Jeremy, and thank you all. Pretty cool, right? And this is a very high standard, and there's ways to be able to borrow from what Jeremy did and make it your own. So we're gonna also start crowdsourcing videos, so you don't have to do the major production. We're gonna be crowdsourcing marketing so that you don't have to do your marketing from scratch. So we're gonna provide you with as many tools that you can swipe and deliver. So that's the beginning of it. So thank you for attending today. Tanya, thank you for your beautiful work, science-backed evidence to all communication. My brothers and sisters, I adore you. And to all of you guys out there, thank you for all that you do. We'll see you next Tuesday for week 8. Bye, guys.